Hey there, welcome to episode 12 of the FFS Talk audio program. I am your host, Dan Hugo. Today is the 15th of February, 2024, the day after Valentine's Day. Ironic, perhaps, we'll see. I'm recording this on the day of the 15th. I was almost going to record it on the 14th, but that would be too much. It is nearly 2 p.m. here in sunny Las Vegas. Today's topic, dating apps have had their turn. In other words, is it time to maybe try something else? Maybe old ways as the new ways? Who knows? Let's see. I am your solo host today. This is an interesting topic in general, probably particularly interesting here in Las Vegas, given the substantial number of people who visit here and who may want to take an opportunity to meet someone from somewhere else. For whatever reason. Something to think about. We certainly have a non-trivial clubbing scene or a social gathering scene. Who knows? You could meet someone at a gaming table, in a club, at a concert, at a sporting event. The fun economy is here for you. So let's see. My summary for today. Many people meet online, whatever that may mean specifically, but is meeting people getting easier? Are the people you meet better for meeting them via profile pictures and self-description on a monetized application platform owned by a monolithic matchmaking machine? Or is just sitting next to someone on a bus or in a library still the best way? Who knows? Who knows? FFS Talk, by the way, is about what works, what does not, and what we can do about it. If you don't know what FFS is, you need more Irish friends. On to the links, the usual self-indulgent self-promotion via buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo. It's where I put all my project links to audio programs and other. There should be more stuff there than there is. Not a fan of the Buy Me a Coffee profile editing and display scheme, but it is a reasonable place to not only list links to my ongoing projects, such as my 4 weekly audio programs, which I produce myself, but also a way for you, if you so desire. You are not obligated to, but if you so desire and you'd like to buy me a coffee, by all means. As I have started being more clear about, the monies, if any, that appear there will go for actual coffee, whether it's beans or coffee making devices and equipment and consumables. I've got a few links to some of my favorite beans there. I'll probably add some more over time. I recently did an episode of Quaggling Sand about making coffee, my adventures as a somewhat amateurish home barista, thanks to our lockdown potential that we all developed many years ago. My ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo profile, ko-fi.com/Dan Hugo, another engagement opportunity. But buymeacoffee.com/Dan Hugo, the main sort of out-of-band engagement tool. Once again, no obligation to actually spend money, but if you want to, you can. I saw an article recently on Business Insider. It was in January this year. Is LinkedIn a dating site? Oh, man. I recently stopped using LinkedIn for most things. I have my profile page there, and I've accepted an invitation to connect, and I have invited 1 or 2 people to connect. It's reasonable as a virtual business card, but as a dating site, I think that's mixing too many things. If you are using LinkedIn as I am, and someone else is using LinkedIn as a dating site, that doesn't go well. So, something to think about. Dating markets. There's an Econ Life article from about a year ago, February 2023, about dating markets. These are market forces as they apply to actual dating. There have been some discussions about the vast gap between some populations using Tinder as the sort of default example. There are some gamification problems there and game theory problems, but gamification as in the more matches you get, the more likely. So I'm going to see how many matches I can get. And I don't believe I haven't used or even tried to use Tinder in 7 years. But if you can see how many people are getting matched, or if they are presented in an ordering that's by matching, or by, I guess it could be geographical distance, but we don't know precisely what algorithm is being used to match people. So it's a game to you. Now, game theory is about like, what's my maximum return, and all the other game theory subtleties. Gamification is not game theory, but the two do come into play separately and together, like they're dating. But it has been shown, I'm sure people that use these platforms have felt it, the difference between different groups that get a lot of matches because they get a lot of right swipes, I suppose you could say, for whatever reason. And the reasoning is different for different populations. And then, so there's a dramatic imbalance between opportunities and choices and all that. So it's an interesting concept. This article is kind of a starting point. You can read about that if you like. If you are using dating apps, I think it's worth looking at how they actually work or don't. The Tinder Economy is an article from 2020. It talks about the actual economics of dating apps. It's a Medium article. It's kind of interesting because it kind of makes some points about diminishing returns as the marketplace becomes, I don't know about flooded, but there are more and more dating apps, as one owner can attest, Match Group. So as there are more and more, there's a dilution of market participants. You know, how many people, you can use multiple apps, so there's not necessarily a opportunity cost. It's not a mono product, as we say. So you can use Tinder and eHarmony or whatever's out there. I don't even know anymore. Kettle of Fish, Hinge, Bumble. You can use all of the apps, just like drivers doing rideshare. You can drive for both. You can do whatever you want. But at the end of the day, the number of opportunities to monetize individual participants, subscribers to a particular service, goes down as there are more, because you mostly are not going to pay. It's almost like streaming sites now, right? You may subscribe to, in the old days you would have a cable channel or a cable service, and you'd have, the million channel package for $1,000. Now you are paying $250 for each. Not really, I'm just inflating, but you're paying a ton of money for each streaming service, and then you have multiple services, and then they're merging and melding and changing their lineups and terms and all that. So it's going to be kind of a mess. I would argue there are some similar issues as the dating application marketplace not only became, and again, not saturated, or flooded, but it certainly had a lot of opportunities. And if they monetize you with advertising and whatnot, okay, well, it is what it is. Your personal information is probably being shared excessively. But if you're starting to pay subscription fees to get some sort of pro tier or premium tier, or whatever the differentiator is. So once you start paying for one of the applications, do you pay for the second and the third and the fourth? I think Match Group, I have a screenshot in our cover art today from Match Group's portfolio. I believe it's 12 applications that they oversee. There may be more. So that starts to add up. That starts to become a little bit pricey. So that's something to think about. It's something to think about not only from the marketplace participant, the person seeking something, but if you're considering writing a dating app, it's also something to think about. Countdown to being acquired by Match Group. I have an article on NPR that was just published the day before Valentine's Day. It's about dating app and profitability. That is how you are being monetized, and how that may be not a good thing. Personally, I think, this is my opinion, of course, I think that dating apps are getting worse. I have not used them, so I cannot say that in first person, but the notion of dating apps as a replacement, as a short circuit to a romance or whatever that might mean, seems to be broken, given that humans are not, we're not game theory models. We're individuals, right? Game theory applies to rational gamers humans are are anything but. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that gaming apps. I'm sorry. I'm not. I don't know that dating apps are offering diminishing returns, or they're just not good in general. Like, are they getting worse, or are they just already not great? I don't know. What do you think? I have a link on Wikipedia for adverse selection. That's when it's in a buyer-seller marketplace, for example. The seller knows what they're selling. The buyer only knows what the seller tells them. So you can see where that would apply to dating. But he sounded so good in his dating profile. Well, he wrote it. And his goal was his goal. So same for her, whoever her or he or they are. So the adverse selection rules can apply to most things. Usually the car lemon notion comes to pass. And you can really get into it. And game theory definitely comes into play when you start talking about warranties and lemons. Or, whether if you're selling a car and it's a lemon versus whether it's not a lemon, and what the warranty value is and the offer and ask prices and all that. That's where you get into some game theory, which is kind of interesting. So you can start at the adverse selection Wikipedia page and go from there. I have a link to the Match group, just their homepage. I can't remember. I think it was a year or two ago when I first noticed, because I'm not really playing in this space, so to speak. But I first noticed that, and I believe it came up because I was in a networking meeting of some sort, entrepreneurial types, and someone said that they were developing a dating app of some sort. And as I will tell you later, and as I have shared in a previous episode of Quaggling Sand about Nookie Map and RegularDB, I didn't really launch it, but my first mobile application with location services was a sort of not really a dating app, but more of a meeting app, as in running into people who are similarly intended, I suppose you could say. Super simple profile, right? I am a couple of things, identities, age range, gender identity, what you're looking for. That's about it. And then you would see on a map where other people that would be compatible with you based on these very, very simple metrics. Oh, they're over there. They're at a show, they're at a bar, they're at a pub or whatever. So I'll get into that more later, but the Match group, I found out during this discussion that they acquire everything in this space, so who knows. The 55-38-7 rule, often misapplied, but it's interesting to think about. It's interesting to know that this study was done. It's the fact that communication between humans is assessed or valued based on the words you select, your vocabulary, the way that you say things, so your intonation, your vocal presentation, and your nonverbal communication, where you're looking, smirks, smiles, shrugs, fidgeting, where your toes are pointed. That's a good one. Et cetera, et cetera. So 55% nonverbal, 38% vocal, intonation, 7% vocabulary. These numbers are not by any means precise, and they are not applicable across the board. But in general, if you really think about how you form any sort of relationship, business, personal, whatever, there is something to be said for in-person. We are social creatures after all. In-person handshakes or bowing or whatever your cultural leanings are, actual communication, even through an interpreter, you can still, like, when you think about it, if you do not speak the same language, so you don't have the words, the vocabulary to share, and you speak through an interpreter, you're all nonverbal, mostly, right? You can pick up on some intonation when they are, when the other person or people are using their language, but in general, you're going to have to look at the reactions through the interpreter, how you react to things. But you can get a lot from that nonverbal. In fact, maybe more than half of your evaluation is based on that. So you can think about that in terms of dating and whether meeting someone in person versus meeting someone through a profile they wrote and pictures that they selected is more valuable. Static pictures, sometimes video now, but something to think about. And there was just an article published in The Atlantic it was a couple days ago. That Americans are hanging out less, and obviously the pandemic is blamed, but I have to wonder, the pandemic lockdown window in America was not, in my opinion, I'm not a social scientist in any way or social psychologist or anything, but to me, I think other factors either set the stage or have dramatically amplified the lockdown effect. Some will say that the mask notion has made people afraid of other people. I don't really see that here in Vegas, for example. So people come to Vegas. They're coming to Vegas in droves for various events. They're gatherings. They're packing the strip. They're filling up stadiums. So I don't know that there's a fear of other people, but I think there is this lowered barrier to entry, barrier for entry. The barrier is reduced or lowered for what might be artificial engagement, chatting, TikTok videos, duets or live streaming or what. These are arm's length communications. Duetting is kind of fun, but it's like that's not really interacting, right? But it sort of replaced the notion of like, oh, instead of getting together and doing a duet, we can just join videos together. I know that's a simplification, you know what I mean? So are you hanging out less? Are you hanging out in a coffee shop or a bookstore or library less frequently? Are you meeting fewer people that way? Are you relying more on Eventbrite and Meetup and Facebook and LinkedIn and obviously the dating platforms? Is that how you engage with other humans? Or you get out and play some softball or go play some gaming, gambling games here in Vegas? So yeah, a couple of things to think about there. I'm going to focus more on dating apps, but certainly all of the things in these articles, and I will probably stray, but dating apps in particular. Well, what is a dating app? What am I referring to? It used to be that you'd meet people in general, like out in the world, and the use of media, initially the printed word, the printing press was, the next morning, I'm sure there were personal ads being placed using Gutenberg press and movable type. So this is not new. Personal ads, entire magazines for meeting people, singles mags and stuff. Misconnection possibilities. This was a big thing on Craigslist, but you could also publish that in a personal ad. Maybe there was an entire section for, hey, I saw you in the coffee shop. I saw you at a concert. I saw you. Who knows what could happen? So this is not new to use the media tools of the day to meet people or to try to meet people. Specific applications that are focused on this add features like you can now have a profile. So instead of a personal ad, 3 lines, 4 days, $5. I remember that was one promotion in Phoenix. 3 lines, 4 days, $5. Yeah, that was for any want ad, but personal ad. I want to meet someone. You can now have a profile page. So now you are linkable and findable some way, whether you have to sign up for the service. Maybe you're publicly linkable is different. Maybe LinkedIn. You can have pictures, maybe videos. It's almost like a personal blog. There are analytics that will tell you how many visits you've had or how many swipes, right? In the Tinder scenario. Maybe there's messaging, so that will obscure your personal contact information. So you don't have to put your phone number or your email address out there right away. You don't even have to use your real name in most cases. So you can meet people, you can test the waters without divulging too much personally identifying information. Location-based search, which is sort of an issue from a privacy standpoint because you are telling someone where you are. In some cases, knowing that you're in Las Vegas may be a problem. In some cases, knowing which room you are in a particular casino resort, on the strip or hotel, anywhere, could be a problem, right? So the fact that you are sharing your location in this context, you are not sharing your name, but you're sharing your location with pictures, something to think about. The Foursquare problem, which is another topic for another time. But these are all, location can be used to constrain who you meet, right? Show me people within 50 miles of me. So, and there's always another new app out there. There's, as I mentioned, people are still thinking them up, and eventually they will all be acquired by Match Group. So we'll see. I've alluded to this slightly. I don't really have a ton of dating app experience in particular. I first used any dating app. It was Yahoo Personals when I moved back to Phoenix from Silicon Valley in 2001. So Silicon Valley, you can meet people all the time. You'd probably meet people working at startups or big well-known companies or some mix. You'd probably meet people in a profession similar or compatible with. They would kind of get it, Oh, you work 80 hours a week? Yeah, me too. Oh, you're working for a startup and you are eating ramen every day, and they just went public, and now you're, all these things. The commonalities probably didn't hurt, so it was really easy to meet people, which I did. So I was not really in need of software assistance. But when I moved back to Phoenix, it was in 2001. It was August, so 9/11 happened right after, and it was a weird time. So at some point, I was like, "Oh, let me see how this Yahoo Personals works." So I did. I met, I connected with, or whatever, a couple of people. I met one person that we exchanged phone numbers for texting, a few text messages back and forth now and then for maybe a week or two, and then eventually, I don't believe. Oh, she was. This is way back in time, obviously. I believe the story was that she was going to be coming to Phoenix, so she was not actually in Phoenix, so that when she would come there, we would meet up. But you know how that goes. We didn't even continue talking for more than another couple days, probably. So very low ROI on that, but not much I. So I didn't really spend too much time on that. When I moved to Las Vegas in 2014, I eventually signed up for Tinder to try it. But here's the deal. I was traveling when I worked for Intel. So I'd be sitting in airports in different parts of the country or parts of the world, and I'd have an hour or two to kill. So on Tinder, because it matches you or offers potential matches based on location, I could very easily say I'm sitting in an airport in Germany or Denver, wherever. So, let's see. So I'd swipe on a couple of people, sometimes match, and then say, yeah, I'm sitting in the airport. I just want to see, just have a chat. So set expectations very reasonably, have a couple of minutes, certainly less than, layovers are not hours and hours, ideally, rarely. So a couple of chats here and there. It was really more very casual, random conversation, similar to being in a coffee shop. So nothing to write home about. I never met anyone to meet up with in person. I never found it appealing to try to meet someone in this manner, and this will probably shade some of my commentary today. I'm much more of an in-person person. So if you meet someone in person, great. Meeting people through electronic means would first go to a meetup in person in some way, from my perspective. Now, it depends on what you're looking for, but that may be for another time. I have filled out profile pages, profiles, forms for Kettle of Fish, eHarmony, Match, probably others. A combination of seeing how they work, like what's up with it. eHarmony used to advertise on television, remember television, all the time. And so I was curious. So I'm sure I filled that out. I filled out Kettle of Fish because it was supposed to be the next thing. Like, okay, how does this work? And then you see who you're matching with, and then you're like, how did I get matched with this person? And there are a couple of other platforms I've tried. Match.com, I think, was one of the first ones that was premium that you'd pay to use. I think eHarmony was right in there. But yeah, I never have gone through with any meetings. Now and then, a match or whatever. Yeah, match, I guess. Every once in a while, a match with someone, and then either they never respond anyway, or conversation goes on for one or two volleys, and then it's, eh. So personally, I think as a vehicle to encounter someone in the real world, like, hey, we're both in Vegas. Are you going to this thing? Are you going to the Formula One race? Are you going to the Super Bowl? Hey, yeah. Oh, when you're there, we can meet up. Maybe, but especially in a place like Vegas, you can certainly meet people in person if you really want to. So my experience has not been, I would say, valuable from a looking for someone, a personal search looking to meet, missed connection, none of that for me. So meet in person, much better. There are a couple of good things about dating apps, though. Meeting more people is often a good thing, especially if they're not monsters. You don't have to be compatible. You don't have to be friends with everyone, is something I've heard said before. So you don't necessarily have to have a love connection to, that's a TV reference you may not get. You don't have to have a love connection if two or more people are looking for similar things, similar outcomes, whether it's romantic or physical or other. In the dating realm, and whatever dating means to you, and hopefully your definition agrees with at least one other person's, the ability to interact with more potentially compatible people seems like a great idea. So you're stacking the deck, you're skewing the odds. The serendipitous collision notion that Tony Hsieh, rest in peace Tony, here in the Downtown Project promoted was, hey, I found out that Downtown Project is doing something from their website or from some press or some meetups, and I will go there and meet people, and I will know sort of some of the people I'm going to meet, and so on. So opportunities to do that are interesting and may skew your odds. Similarly, serendipitous collisions are a thing. Now, I wouldn't base my business or life on them. I don't know that I would have based Downtown Project on them. But as a feature, sure. Meeting online, as a generic phrase, could mean many things. One of the articles I've linked to has a chart that shows a dramatic increase over the past several years in the number of people who volunteer, I suppose, or respond that they met online. Now, to me, meeting online could be meeting in a discussion forum. It could be meeting via some social platform like Facebook, meeting via comment threads that starts a conversation on a Instagram or in a Discord server, or it could be using an actual dating app. So it's hard to say how people present their story or their version of a story. But that said, meeting online is a generic phrase, is becoming more prevalent, and it's how people are meeting. It's, you can see it in the numbers. A lot of people are doing it. Now, does that mean people are hanging out less, so they have to rely on online tools and dating apps? Maybe. I don't know if that's good. But that people are meeting and finding some sort of success is a good thing, right? As long as the outcomes are positive for all involved, great. Not complaining. Some online presence makes it easier for mutual friends to matchmake. Now, not everybody's a fan of matchmaking. You can always point to a picture or a profile, a blog, a video, and say, this is somebody I know and you should meet them and I'm going to introduce you. Okay, that's great. I will say that I have done my share of matchmaking in my travels, although the two that come to mind immediately, the most successful, were people I knew. I knew both parties of man and woman in both cases who already knew each other, but didn't know that the other person was pining. So one couple I knew in high school, they were dating, they broke up for a while. And in speaking to both of them, both had mentioned the other. And I said, at some point, I was like, hey, you're both talking to me about the other person. You should talk to each other about the other. Like, well, what's going on here? And sometime later they got married. They're still married. They have kids. So good for them. It was destiny. And then a couple in college, same sort of deal. It helps that everybody knows each other, right? Friend groups. So these two people, I want to say separated by about 2 years. So he was in my class and she was 2 years younger. Once again. So I knew him better. I knew him for 3 years at the time. And we all lived in the same dorm and all that. So she was talking about him and I was like, why don't you just go talk to him? Oh, I don't know. So I went up to his dorm room, I knocked, opened the door, and since I won't say his name, I will say that he was laying on his bed he is a runner, so he was very skinny, laying on his bed with his tighty-whitey underwear on, reading a textbook for one of our classes, one of his classes, junior year. I said, hey, what do you think of other person? And he's like, she's pretty cool. I said, well, she thinks the same of you. So maybe you guys should talk more. And they got married and they're still married. They have kids, all that. So still works. Maybe I'm a dating app. But yeah, having an online presence, if you don't know the person directly or you can't introduce them, in person, or if you only know, maybe you met them at work and you do a little background check and you can see what they're interested in, what they're up to. Oh, you can see that there's no girl in the picture. They must be single. There's no boy in the picture, etc. So you can do a little recon. You might have a TikTok profile and you may be a active TikToker. You may post a lot of Instagram, now Reels. But either way, some of your personality can come out through these images that you are hopefully posting, not necessarily to attract dating possibilities. Maybe you just post foodie pics, or maybe you post travel pics or whatever. Musical TikToks. Could be anything. So your personality becomes a little bit more visible. I don't know that happens on dating app profiles because the goal is different. Now the bad. Applications and platforms dedicated to matchmaking are typically for profit. They have investors. They want to make money. They want to get their money back. So the way the platform functions, the rules, the game part, right? Not the game theory, the gaming as in, you get to swipe 10 times. You get to see this many. If you match, you get to do this, right? So how has it been made fun and appealing? I mean, if the process was mechanical and painful, who's going to want to do that? Especially given the economy of these sites where so few end up with any positive outcome in one of the populations at least. So the goals, the key performance indicators, if you like, or maybe the objectives and key results of the platform, or in the case of Match Group, of all of their platforms, is to make money. They can say, oh, you're going to meet the love of your life a couple times. But as long as they can monetize that meets their investor goals. It meets their, if they're a public company, forget about it. Another bad thing is that instead of a friend or a colleague or someone who knows you and at least one other person in this transaction, unless you know people, you are essentially self-identifying, self-selecting the photos you post, the details you share. This is the adverse, what's the word? Adverse selection. Thank you. Totally spaced. And I had to flip through my notes. So adverse selection. So I'm going to tell you the things that make me seem cool, and then I'm going to adjust those over time. Like, oh, I added a new picture and that got me more matches. You didn't change, just your marketing changed. So I don't know that there's always that connection made between the person as a person and the person as a product. And don't forget that the platform that they are tuning with their photos and word selection and all that platform also wants you to match with them, but they also want you to come back and match with somebody else and keep doing that. That's how they get their views, engagement, and conversions and whatever else. So completely self-selected and self-identified participants in this marketplace bring about the lemon law possibilities. Where are the warranties? And they also are being driven by, just like, how many of you have TikTok or YouTube or Instagram, or, what you are seeing is algorithmically selected to maximize returns for the platform, not necessarily for you. So we can pretend it's, oh, Tinder's really trying to help me meet somebody. Tinder really wants to make money. And if you meet someone as a result, as long as you do it again and again and again, keep coming back, it's all good. So yeah, the adverse selection complication makes the shopping model tricky or worse. And remember the 55-38-7 notion, not really a rule, and even those specific numbers, keep them in mind, but don't use them as rules. That nonverbal communication, the interaction in person, the cues, the responses, the reactions to outside things, What happens when if you're late, you get there late? Are you shown an ugly, unhappy face, or are you shown a like, hey, I'm happier to see you, even if it took an extra 20 minutes, right? So you will pick up on those things no matter what the words are. So that kind of engagement is often filtered out. So not only are you're seeing the selected elements that a self-described person wants you to see, but you are not seeing the nonverbal and interactive features of our fellow humans that we probably use way more than we're aware. Although now YouTube matchmaking videos are all about this. So look for this. Does he do that? Does he smile when you say this? Does she point her toes that way when you talk about this? Is she looking? Is she playing with her hair? All these nonverbal cues have become an entire science on their own. But a lot of that gets filtered out on dating apps. So you don't get to see that in someone you may want to meet. You may not want to meet them based on their profile, but it turns out they would have been great, or vice versa. You never know. You may never know. The ugly, so the good, the bad, the ugly, get it? Algorithmic matching can be seen with, like I said, TikTok For You page, the YouTube recommendations. Instagram creates its feed based on engagement, not on what you really want to see. Yes, it presents people you're following, but this happens with food trucks all the time. You'll see a food truck post from a couple days ago. Like, you can't use Instagram for your food truck marketing because there's no guarantee that the people who even follow you will see where you're going to be. Hey, we're going to be here tomorrow. Oh, I just saw this and it was yesterday. Tomorrow was yesterday. So you cannot rely on a platform that is trying to make money based on engagement to do what you need them to do. They're going to do what they need to do. So the content you see is based on the goal of engagement and conversions, or the monetization of those. So you may be seeing, if you swipe right on a particularly classified profile on Tinder, as in classification, as in, physical properties visible in photos, word choices, etc. Other people who have matched, that's something to think about, is how you are a part of an overall data set. So the system may know exactly who is swiping right and left. I mean, they do know. They may apply that in how you are present, or which profiles you're presented with, and vice versa, right? So the other person may be also seeing profiles based on who their common swipes have been, and so on. So it becomes very mechanical, and that is not always apparent. But you always have to remember that the profit motive may steer that, and that's on one of the links I mentioned earlier. Profitability, profit as motive. Why are apps getting worse, I guess? Algorithms can be gamed. You'll always see how to post the right pictures, how to write a great profile. And obviously now it's ChatGPT or similar, some large language model. Let's tune up your profile with a AI. Okay. Do we really need to discuss that? If you are able to game an algorithm, that's almost like lying. Hey, I'd like to meet someone, but I want them to meet an idealized version of myself that will match their wants and needs more closely than I do on my own. And this has come up in critical analyses, if you don't look at them as fun little movies, but as any Groundhog Day effect. So Groundhog Day, and there was another movie in particular, I can't remember. But so part of the humor is that it's usually a male. So, Bill, what's his name? Bill Murray. So Bill Murray gets to try out his game thousands of times because the goal is to hook up with Andy McDowell in Groundhog Day. So we get to watch him trying out all different methods and okay, great. So she didn't really like him at first. She only liked him after he tuned his presentation to match what she was looking for as closely as possible. French poetry. This is from memory, so I didn't really have this in the mix, but it was French poetry and her other interests and her goals in life and how oh yeah, me too. So yeah, sure. If you can try, this is almost like tuning your thumbnail and your title in A/B testing on YouTube. Same goal, clicks, revenue generation, right? I want something. I will tune my presentation until I get it. So I may sound negative, but that is something to think about. So yeah, algorithms can be gamed, and they are. And the dating app economy can lead to substantial disappointment and shallow outcomes. Even if you meet someone that you kind of like, do you kind of like them, or do you kind of like the impression that they set up? And you're like, oh yeah, I can. Oh, okay, well that didn't really match, but okay, yeah. And there are often jokes about height or other physical attributes being wildly different. The catfish approach. So yeah, something to think about. That's certainly an ugly component. The best dating app would have a shrinking user base or declining engagement in general. People would probably join more because fewer people are returning to the app. That's hard to sell. It's hard to count your money on that premise. But if you are truly successful, for example, my 2 success stories. I didn't go back to either of these couples and say, okay, so let's try this again because I gotta pay the rent. Right? I was successful because I never had to do any matchmaking with these people again. Everybody wins. But if my goal is to somehow monetize, you guys can't keep getting along. I gotta do this again. So there's a gap in key performance indicators, or like I always go with objectives and key results. The dating platform has key performance indicators. How many engagements, how much money, what's our profit? You as a dater, as someone looking for some sort of connection, you have aspirational objectives and key results, right? Is it somebody I get along with? Is it someone who I want to spend time with? Is it someone who's available, who is as interesting or more so on the 10th time we talked than the first time? So all of these things are more complicated for people. But for platforms, those KPIs are very, very simple. Do we make money? There may be people that have more heart in the game. End of the day, though, a for-profit entity, yeah, it's nice that you met. We got to make money. So this might be the biggest red flag about dating apps, although participant gaming is probably worse. The platform itself is kind of set up for this. So it could go either way, maybe tied for first. The gaming, literally gaming the system. So gaming the gamification. The platform being profit driven. The profit motive outweighs the desire to see people happy. So something to think about. Are you getting the impression that I'm not a fan of dating apps? Maybe that's why I have not used them for so long, or tried to use them even. What about some alternatives? Well, there are events. You may have common interests that draw you to a game or to a concert or to a play or a race on the streets. So you may attend events and then run into someone. You may run into the same person over and over, or a group of people, and eventually kind of like a centrifuge. You may separate out the interesting people and the casually not as interesting people. But you do this by starting off with common interests, common intent, right? If you make the trip to a concert, you have already indicated several things about yourself, right? You are willing to show up for things, even if there's some adversity with parking and getting tickets and so on. So these the classic hangouts, so events are pretty classic, but hanging out at a library or bookstore, maybe you are hanging out at coffee shops. Coffee shops are interesting places to meet people if they take their earbuds out and actually have conversations. If there's an indication that participants are on the market or looking for someone, that can be, in an unambiguous way, that can be very helpful. Not the LinkedIn dating platform, because you don't have any of those other cues. But if you are connected to someone on LinkedIn and then you meet them in person and then you end up going for a coffee, or that's where not using the platform on just bulk messaging your contacts, looking for love. But if a professional network can lead to a personal connection, that's fine. But I would offer that those would happen through some of the more classic means, not through direct messaging. I have my app idea. So I mentioned, I called it Nookie Map at the time, but I don't think I would call it that today. Very basic identity, not even a physical description, literally, because you don't want to make it too complicated or too overly overfit. You don't need to overfit, right? Like, I'm looking for someone exactly this height, this weight, this hair color. No. Starting off with, I'm single or, whatever, and available. How about that? I'm available, I'm looking, and I'm male, and I'm looking for female. That's about it. That is enough information so that people kind of understand, who they're going to be talking to or running into. There's no mixed messages. There's no, so there's some clarity. There's no bad feelings, hopefully, in the setup stage, let's say. So if you know that, if you look at a map and you see a bunch of little icons that are like, oh, here are people who match what you are looking for and you match what they are looking for. And that's all you know. A couple things, a couple of very minor details. Is that list set in stone? No. So obviously that could be tuned a little bit, but it basically says, here are some people that might be interesting. Does it have to be like, oh, I only want to meet people who build model airplanes? No, that's what comes from conversation. So if you want to hedge your bets by knowing down to the shoe size and in some cases like bank statements, which is ridiculous. If you need that, that's not what we're talking about here. But if you are interested in opportunities, possibilities, if you have some optimism left, the whole idea was to put you in a place where someone else could also be put in a place where you might run into each other. Remember, I referred to Tony's serendipitous collision idea for downtown project in downtown Las Vegas. Kind of the same idea. That was my first mobile application I developed with my Android One. I never really launched it, but I was, how do location services work on a native Android application? Nowadays, there are probably even better ways to do what I was attempting. Who knows? It may see the light of day in some other form under a new name. But I think the notion is sound, and we'll see. And then there are the old classic ways. I mentioned my personal matchmaking experiences. You might have friend groups, whether it's at work or around a hobby or a sporting activity or fandom or whatever, right? Maybe you're a big Star Trek fan and you go to a convention, or maybe you love hanging out in a particular coffee shop or a bar, who knows? So as you socialize with similar people and more people come into or leave the group, and there are second order connection possibilities. So this kind of a network is not an application in itself tracking metrics and trying to profit, but more serendipitous collision possibilities again. And it might be worth thinking about that. Put your phone down or at least look up from your phone and see who people are talking to that and maybe they'll talk to you. Although we're not hanging out as much, and that is a concern that we can talk about another time. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. Like I said, I do have a sort of interest in this based on my app idea. The reason I chose that app was probably, I'm trying to think of the time frame. I think it was whenever the Android One came out. I remember thinking, I wonder if this would work. And I wanted to do something location based to try the built-in GPS stuff. So this was all brand new back then, right? Like, I can see where I am on a map. Are you kidding? I ended up doing more food truck related location stuff. And that's a whole different thing. But it seemed interesting to me to keep out the whole fill out these 50 questions or there's another one. There's kettle of fish, but there's another one. I totally don't remember. Anyway, you can fill out questions all day, but it really depends on who, what is the person you're meeting, what do they bring out of you? What do you bring out of them? I just find it very difficult to quantize that into, if you've heard of word to vec, you're like him to vec and her to vec or whatever. Like, oh, I have to put you into a giant vector and match it against other. Oh, come on. just go out and have a coffee. So I think it's an interesting topic. Humans are generally interesting, though severely flawed. Trying to match them with math, maybe matching them with physics would be better. Like physically in the same room. That was funny to me. Thank you for listening. Don't forget buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. You do not have to spend any money, but if you do, I will buy coffee because everything I do is powered by coffee. Check it out. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time. Don't forget, on the Buy Me a Coffee profile page, links to my other shows. I produce 4 a week. More stuff going on, more coming, more cool stuff, if this is cool. Take it easy. Cheers.